So slow. Presented by Under Armour and Sleeper Fantasy. Welcome to Light Years, a morning after edition of Light Years. We're recording this 10 a.m. Sunday morning. Kind of feel good that we didn't go live right after the game. I always get FOMO not going live right after the game, but sleeping on it, feeling a little more measured, feeling well rested. The sun's out, NFC, AFC championship weekend. Got a little more perspective than what I would have had last night.
Yeah, it feels like if we do this after all the Warriors close L's, maybe we'd be happier people. But you know, it's always fun. The Light Years podcast, the Light Years podcast is always there when people are at their most passionate, which is the best part of the show. And we're here after where I think we're gonna maybe be a little more measured today. I'm generally a little bit more optimistic about the Warriors right now. Maybe not long term, but kind of just looking at them like here for the last week and for the whatever moving forward. But I don't know, Sam. It's nice to watch. I think the NBA's game of the year last night, even though the Warriors lost, it's just nice to watch that Steph and LeBron are still those dudes.
It is absolutely the game of the year. By the way, shout out to Warriors Latam in the chat. My Argentinian Warriors community, they did their first watch party on playback last night. Huge success. It's been so fun watching international communities geek out over NBA games on the platform. And I mean, that was the game of the night. I feel like my number one takeaway from last night, and I don't know if I'd have said it in the immediate aftermath of the agony of that loss, was I've gone from hating LeBron to begrudgingly respect in terms of these two dudes have been going at it for a decade. They've been carrying the league for a decade. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, in the backdrop of Embiid ducking Jokic right before it.
Oh boy.
They feel like they're the last two of a dying breed. You know what I'm saying? Still sucks they lost last night, but just the competitiveness. Let's be honest, the Lakers are the 10 seed, the Warriors are the 12 seed. They're not good right now. I don't think either of them are realistic contenders. Maybe the trade deadline changes that. Maybe it doesn't. Those guys still came out with professionalism and competitiveness because they wanted to win and put on by far the best show of the season.
Yes, sir.
I just don't know if you can count on that with any of the younger stars in the league right now.
Yep.
So even if he's Warriors villain number one for the last decade, and I know that the Warrior core guys kind of feel this way too. Like when you face a guy that much, it's kind of a tip of the cap type of thing. You gotta kind of enjoy it because I don't know how many more years we're gonna get of this. I think they're both back next year on their respective teams, but I mean, it's not gonna be another 5 years.
It takes so much. This is why I woke up. This is what I was thinking about. Like, I wasn't thinking about should the Warriors trade for DeJounte Murray. Like, I just woke up and I was like, man, like, looking back at these guys, they've hated each other. They've liked each other. LeBron has been kind of like a huge fan of Steph. Steph was looking up to LeBron. Then they hated each other during those Cleveland finals, right? Then KD came over and he was part of that rivalry. And now it feels like the guys, they don't hate each other anymore. I don't think they love each other, but I think they respect each other. I think you go through that game and LeBron career high in rebounds, Steph 46 points, game should have been the game-winning three. And you just kind of think to yourself, who on earth in the next 5 years is going to make the NBA like this? It doesn't take one guy, Sam. It doesn't just take one guy to be like Steph. It doesn't take one guy to be like LeBron. You got to have two guys. You got to have two guys that care enough to carry the league like this. Not like to care about, like they care about the NBA as a product, as they want to be the face, right? They want to push the NBA to bigger things. And they've done that. Steph and LeBron care to do that. I just don't know if there's anyone that today that is as good as these guys. One, that's the most important part. And two, care to do that, right? These guys nowadays, and I don't mean to like hate on guys. It's just, look at these two. Yeah, a little bit. But at the end of the day, there's nobody as good as these two guys, I don't think, for the next 5 years. Maybe Jokic. And then even then, does Jokic really care? And these guys they just give a fuck every single day, no matter what. It's amazing. It makes me happy, even though again, like the Warriors,
Yeah.
but it makes me happy.
I mean, whatever you think of LeBron, and there's some probably selfish goals in it, the dude wanted to be seen as big as Michael Jordan, and everything he's ever done has been in context of like trying to prove he's the greatest of all time. And then the biggest compliment you can give to Steph is he's psychopath enough to come at that guy and want to prove he's that good too, you know? Um, a lot of the bad blood between the two was basically Steph wasn't supposed to be there. Remember? No one saw Steph coming, not at this level. We might have liked him beforehand, but no one thought he was going to be the face of the league. Um, and just the pride and competitiveness that goes between those two. Like, again, on the thumbnail, I'm sure everyone got a nice laugh out of it. They look like old men and that sort of thing. But it's like, dude, LeBron's the oldest player in the league. Steph, top 5 oldest at this stage of his career. And they're still the two faces of the league. And I don't think it's particularly close in that regard. Yeah, I don't know. We sound like old men, yelling at the clouds a little bit, but it's just not going to be the same. I see the chat mentioning Wemby and Chet. It wouldn't surprise me. I
That's
like what I see from them. Maybe they will be, but if I'm looking at it honestly right now, like as you said, Jokic has the talent, but he's got like a Tim Duncan mentality mixed with wanting to just kind of go chill in Serbia with his horses. Embiid, I'm sorry, fraud, just a total fraud. And then like a lot of the other guys in that age range, like I don't really know what to think about in general. So we'll see where the NBA goes. More than anything, I just wanted to start off by like appreciating the fact that these two dudes still put on a show. By far the game of the year. I don't even think it's a question at this point. Yeah. And so let's get to it.
All right.
Another Warriors heartbreaker. Only the 44th of the season, right?
It's amazing to me that they've only played 40-ish games this season. It's amazing because it's felt like 100. I don't know how they've not played 100 games.
43 games on the season. 31 or 32 have been in clutch time, which is defined as a 5-point game down the stretch.
That's absurd.
Of those 32, I would say half of them went down to the last possession. Just not good for your health to constantly go down to the last possession, particularly when the last two, you were traveling, so we didn't pod for the Kings game. But it's just same thing. Lose when you can't get a stop at the end. Frustrating. You're angry. You felt like they did everything they could have to win that game. They should have. And then you just walk away with an L. You saw how frustrated Steph was at the end of that game, ripping the jersey. It's just kind of, he knows one break and they're 3-0 since returning from the layoff. And everyone's like, oh, they're turning the corner. Things are going well. And instead it's 1-2 with 2 losses on last possessions. And we're sitting here going like, man, it's not good for my health.
I can't imagine them. To me, watching these last 2 games, I don't think they figured anything out, though. That's the thing. That's the concerning thing about this team is even if they had won the games, are you feeling that much better than being 3-0? I don't want to be the bad guy, but like they don't play any defense, Sam. Like 48 minutes a game, and last night 58 minutes a game. I mean, look, Steph is frustrated. He rips his jersey. But I don't think this team is figuring anything out long term because they can't defend, and their offense in crunch time is basically just Steph save us. And while that works sometimes, it didn't work last night, and he did his best to save him. He had 12 points in the second overtime. It's just there's not much you can do other than, okay, maybe they win these 2. Do you feel that much happier? I mean, you're happier, but do you feel like anything is going to change? And that's why, to me, if you're the Warriors front office, you can't just look at these games and think we're going to make a decision based on these games. It was obvious what their weaknesses were for weeks, if not months now, regardless of whether they're 19-24 or 24-19, because it could easily be 24-19. The issues are the same, no matter what.
It's a fair point, but as I sleep on it, I kind of am coming out the opposite way, where I do think they're stumbling. Stumbling is not the right word, but they're coming on to something. And I really do think that Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond small ball lineup is working. So I'll put some numbers out here for you just because I was toiling around with it.
Yep.
The starters last night were plus 16 against the Lakers.
Ooh.
Since they've returned from the layoffs, so the last 3 games, the Draymond, Wiggins, Kuminga front court is plus 32. They are winning those minutes. Like, part of me sitting here going, if the I hate blaming the refs, but that fourth quarter whistle was a joke. And did they really lose this game because they couldn't guard down the stretch? Or did the players who would be guarding LeBron just get fouled off the floor? The backups to those players are on the injury list. So we're stuck with Corey Joseph and Pods, who, like, let's be realistic. I don't think that was Steve's first or second choice in terms of who he wants matching up on an, like an ATO where, the ball's going to LeBron. That doesn't make it any different. That doesn't say they don't have problems, but it does feel like, and this was my optimism in the preseason. And then, of course, Wiggins comes out of shape playing awful basketball. And then Draymond decides to join like the WWE or whatever the heck was going on in the first half of the season. So we never even got to see it through the first 41 games, for being honest. This was kind of always my hope at the best lineup for this roster. And it is working. They just haven't got the results from it.
Well, they haven't got the results from it because it's not been enough. Like you just said, like this should have been a lineup that should have happened on the floor day one. Now, would it have been this successful day one? Probably not, because you talked about Wiggins with Kuminga making that year 3 leap. But it kind of sucks that they're game 43 now throwing this lineup out, and it's really working. The other thing I would maybe throw back at you is this. So they're missing a couple guys right now. They're missing GP2 or they're missing Chris Paul. I think those are the 2 big ones. I think we can safely put Moses Moody away for a little bit. So if you put Chris Paul on the floor in crunch time, who are you taking off? Because they're gonna do that, right? And then if
I would hope they wouldn't in this setup. The hope had always been that Steve would play the matchup, which is to say, when you're going against LeBron, you kind of have to have Kuminga instead of Chris Paul out there because just he has size. He has size. But, there are matchups where you can go with the Chris Paul midget lineup. He's not healthy anyway. So,
but I'm saying I just don't know how much that stuff fixes you, right? You can argue that if they had GP2, they win last night. I think they probably do. Their biggest weakness right now is all guys do is drive by them. Like, it's a complete joke. Their point of attack defense, guys just walk right to the rim, left and right. Every single game is the same thing. And that stuff, it doesn't change unless he plays. But he also can't stay on the floor both health-wise and also offensively, right? Like he can't play that many minutes in games. And then Chris Paul, it's the other way. It's Chris Paul, super smart.
They could have used him slowing the ball down when they in the fourth quarter. So it's not like he's not without some use.
He would have, like last night. Some of the bad plays that they, like Draymond throwing the ball around a little bit, Pajumski taking a terrible shot, like that stuff goes away when Chris Paul's on the court on offense. But at the same time, like he's so bad defensively, like you can't play Chris Paul and Steph on the floor. So I don't know how much that stuff changes the team, but I think maybe long term you can argue Draymond, Kuminga, and Wiggins works. Then Sam, that begs the question: are those guys going to be on the team in a couple weeks? If that's going to be the lineup that works, because I agree with you, that lineup looked pretty good when it did look good. Is it something that they're going to love moving forward? Because if it does work, you don't trade those guys. Like if it does work, you can't trade Wiggins. Like, he is really good when he's good. He was solid last night, right?
So he was. I think he played hot potato in the fourth quarter, but undoubtedly he played really good basketball for most of the game. And he kind of had since Draymond came back. There's no denying that since Draymond's come back, Wiggins, the offense isn't where it was in 2022, but he's the energy and the defense is starting to get there. Maybe just needed Draymond up his ass a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, real quick. The Light Years podcast is brought to you by, and this is a great day for this, Under Armour, baby. Curry brand, Steph Curry makes you believe you can do absolutely anything, and the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up, showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock with your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. I just got them. I just got the Bruce Lee, Steph Curry. Just got them yesterday. I will be wearing them Tuesday in my weekly pickup game. The Curry 11s are perfect for the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with your dual density UA flow cushioning and traction. An emergency brake you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspirations from the wonders of a positive and modernized future. On and off the court, take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. Curry 11, Future Curry, available now at currybrand.com.
All right, so we're talking about it. Like, it is working, and I think this stat I saw speaks to both the positive and the negative of the Warriors more than anything. Last night, Draymond was plus 31, which means the Warriors were minus 32 when he was on the bench. Only like only 3 players in NBA history have had a higher plus minus in a loss, which speaks to, one, how good Draymond is and kind of how much he... but he's a damn good basketball player, does winning things. The second thing it speaks to is maybe Chris Paul solves this a little bit. Maybe, Chris Paul, GP2, and Moody not all being out solves it, but it's like they just don't do anything. They don't play winning basketball without Steph and Draymond on the court. They didn't last night. That's kind of where I'm sitting here, and I'm going, okay, if Draymond's on the court, Wiggins plays really well. If Draymond's on the court, Kuminga looks like a budding star, quite frankly. Like, he's been phenomenal for the month of January, and particularly in the Draymond lineups, as kind of, you might project. But all that goes away when Steph and Draymond are off the court, and it kind of gets to your point, which is like, even if it's working in this context, is it enough? Like, I'm willing to throw the record out the window because Draymond literally didn't play the first half of the season, but is it enough to think like we just need them to stay healthy and they'll be okay?
Oh boy. What you sound like right now? This is how I imagine the front office sounds like when they don't do anything at the trade deadline. This is what I imagine they're saying to people is that, if we get Chris Paul back and he plays 20 minutes a game and he's leading the second unit, and then it's like, no, well, we watch Steve Kerr playing 30 minutes a game and just kind of extend him for no reason. Anyway, can I go back on one thing before we move on to this stuff? It's Draymond was incredible last night. Draymond played a game that I thought that's what the Warriors consistently need from him. They need him to play with the type of energy that reminds you of what makes him so great, regardless of whether he was playing LeBron or AD. Sam, I thought he was cussing those dudes. I thought he was talking shit. It was the type of Draymond where he's towing the line. Maybe he crossed the line, but he didn't get caught crossing the line. He just went there just far enough to where he was like a madman, right? He's swearing at guys. He's calling Jared Vanderbilt the B word. He's blocking LeBron at the rim. He's contesting Anthony Davis. He's playing great defense. He's barely turning the ball over. I thought that was probably the best Draymond game I saw this season. I don't think it's close. If they get that version with him, that's great. But to your point about being dependent, I think that's why they brought Chris Paul. I literally think that's why the Chris Paul stuff. By the way, Chris Paul wearing a huge chain last night, brother. Ain't you like 40? What's happening there? Very odd. But brother, I think
the closer you get to 40, you start feeling things.
Very odd. Is he married? I don't know. He has a kid, obviously, right?
Yeah,
he's insane. Okay,
yeah,
that's odd with the chain. But I lost my train.
Let the man live.
Great
Let the man live.
Game. Great Draymond game. I think they can argue that Chris Paul coming back solves a lot of issues where they're less dependent on Draymond, especially in the second unit. So I don't know, Sam. That doesn't make me feel that much better, though, does it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this leads to kind of a philosophical question. You can look at data, and whether you care about the numbers or just going off your eyes, the Steph, Clay, really it's the Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond. That's like their best front court. It wins, and you could say get guys healthy and add like a bit piece to the front court because their biggest issue right now is Looney. Well, one of their bigger issues is Looney's unplayable, so they don't have a center option, period. You can't really play Looney much anymore. Trace, energy's nice, but he is 6'8", and like he's a rookie. In some ways, it's like, and I like Pods a lot, but it's if you're counting on him to be in your 8-man rotation, you're not going anywhere, and then like Dario Saric was always brought in to be kind of a shooter off the bench, not be your like rim protector or anything. Like you can make an argument that what if they just add like a front court piece for depth and lean into it and let's see what happens in the playoffs. Or you could argue the opposite, which is what's that do? That gets you in the play-in. Maybe you win a play-in and you're a tough first round out. Maybe you get to second round, but you're not going much farther. So real question at the deadline is, do you make moves to bolster that lineup? Or do you make moves that would rapidly change the complexion of the team, but maybe put the team in better position for next year? So like the obvious candidate is the DeJounte Murray trade. DeJounte is undoubtedly talented. He would increase the talent level on the team. I'm not convinced he makes them better in the short term because you're just changing the construct of the team. Doing that on the fly, it feels almost like a move to be way better for next year than to be better this year. Like you get rid of Wiggins and you bring in DeJounte. I think you've added more talent to the team, but you've changed its construct with 25 games to go. Usually history tells us that doesn't help you in the playoffs. It might help you for next year, though.
Are we doing the DeJounte thing right now?
Sure. I use it as an example,
yeah,
but he's clearly the biggest name. I don't know. It sounds like he's going to be moved.
Yeah, he's for many reasons, I doubt that the Warriors are at the front of the line of it. But your philosophical question, I think, is interesting because I think the Warriors are going to just double down. I don't think they're going to try to do anything crazy to be better next year. I think they're just going to double down and say, we're close. We're close, right? We figured something out. The Draymond, Wiggins, Kuminga thing is sort of there. Chris Paul is going to be back. GP2 is going to be back. Can we move some piece? This is why I think Moses Moody is going to be gone. Like, can we maybe just move some guys to bring in some depth guys, maybe get off Wiggins' contract and maybe elevate Moody, something like that. I think they think they're close enough to where, one, they think they can make a comeback and win enough games if they add one or two pieces. Two, they just aren't really a risky team. Like they're not going to do the LeBron thing. They're not going to trade a future pick, right?
History tells us they're pragmatic.
Yeah, when people
risk averse, whatever. Pragmatic's like the nice way to say it.
Scared is what it is. Like it's just they're not gonna do anything that I think is gonna jeopardize 2028. And you could argue like whether that's the right one. I would say like 2028 they're cooked anyway. Like be for real. Like they don't have anybody on the team that's helping them in 2028 win real games. And that's where I think they're gonna kind of ride this out. You called this 2 weeks ago. I was hoping this wouldn't be the case, and now that Siakam's off the market, and
I just wonder.
This is where we are. This is how they look. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me now, which is a little sad.
I just wonder if. I don't know. I think if you look at the Warriors, here's your high level overview issue that the front office is seeing. The big money guys are not producing like big money players. Steph is. Draymond has not all season, not because of his play, but because of just getting suspended. Wiggins probably has the least excuses of anyone because he's 28. This should have been the year Wiggins is carrying the every night torch. Clay has been subpar, but his contract expires and he has the injuries. So it's like they're going to deal with Clay no matter what in the offseason. Wiggins in some ways is really the one that is like, dude, you're 28. We're expecting you to be 2021, 22 two-way every night, and you've been anything but that, And so I do wonder if part of them is just like, man, we just need to get off it. We need to go in a different direction. We need a player we can count on more in that salary slot.
Or
And maybe it's a different type of player. Yeah.
or do they believe that if he just reverts back to that guy,
Right.
that contract is still really good next year? Again,
That contract is good if he plays like the guy
Exactly.
in 2022.
Exactly.
That contract is unmovable if he plays like the guy he was from November until Draymond came back. And that's like the wildness of it. It's like that's such a wide range. Imagine if what is their record if they have 2022 Wiggins, even with Clay declining and Draymond going WWE?
26 and 24-19. Flip the record.
At
least.
They're sitting right where Dallas and like those teams like Sac are, right? Like like solid playoff teams, right in the mix.
So do they say, why would we go get off this contract for
sell them for pennies on the dollar? Yeah.
Why would we? I don't know. But I actually kind of, this is where I kind of empathize with their front office, where I'm kind of like, shit, that's a decision that I don't know what you're supposed to do. I really don't, because they're not trading Wiggins for like that's not the trade. It's not Wiggins for a star. It's we get off 28-30 million for the next 3 years, right? Like that's
25, 20, 26 a year for the next 3 years. It would be like doing the Jordan Poole trade again, honestly.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Where they're just like, I mean, Chris Paul has some value, but the main value is it's an expiring contract versus a 4-year commitment. Yeah, I mean that's tough. You could argue that, dude, just like play him out. Maybe think about in the offseason, if he has a strong second half, you have better options in terms of keeping him or letting him go. Or you could look at it the other way, which is like, man, it can only get worse. So, and then we haven't even talked about the fact, like, how much are they willing to pay for? Because right now they're on pace for $400 million payroll, $200 million taxes, and they're not in the plan.
Any better.
I think Joey's willing to pay that for playoff revenue because he tends to make most of it back. But if you're not even going to do that, like, I don't know. You could argue get rid of Wiggins, bite the bullet, try to get DeJounte. Now you got an elite playmaker and point of attack defender, and you're hoping Kuminga grows up to be your wing stopper sooner than later. Or you could look at it from the standpoint of that's a lot of money to spend to maybe not even get that much better, and maybe we just need to tear it down in a different way.
Yeah. All right.
And then I've seen the chat mentioning like Claxton. Obviously, the Hawks want to get rid of Capella, who's older than Claxton. But like, what if you insert a real center because Looney's no longer playable? Like, does that change? I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. We got 10 days. We'll find out.
10 days, man. We've got 10 days. Here we go. All right. We're gonna get to some of the goons. Before we do that, the Light Years podcast is brought to you by Sleeper Fantasy. The NBA season. We are midway through the season, which means you now have a chance to 100x your cash on daily fantasy basketball. Basketball has never been more exciting. We just watched the game of the season last night than it is now with players like Steph and LeBron. Those are the two best players. You can always bet on those guys. Pick more or less on stats for those two guys, like points, rebounds, 3-pointers, steals, double-doubles, and more for up to 100x payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big. Use promo code Light Years, and you get to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And we are brought to you by Game Time. Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in tickets show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. We've got upcoming concerts in the Bay Area. There's my girl coming to the city or coming to Oakland in a couple months. IU, so I'll be going there, and we'll be locked in. I'll be using Game Time. Oakland Arena, by the way, Sam. It's where the Warriors used to play. She will be there, and I'll be using Game Time.
Chase couldn't get her.
No, Chase could. So here's what happens in the Bay
Only
Area.
Andrew Bocelli.
By the way, you always mention him. I still have no idea who he is. The foreign stars, their first go around, they're not Taylor Swift, so they tend to check out like I hate to do this, but the second rate stadiums, and then after that they'll go to your Chase Centers, they go to SoFi Stadium, they'll go to all of that. That's where you can start using it.
It's just interesting to me because like it's the same capacity. So
Yes,
like you're betting you can sell out 17, 18,000, which I believe she can, but why the Oakland Arena? That's not Oracle anymore.
Oakland Arena
versus Chase.
I never understand it, but regardless of which arena you choose, game time.
That's true.
Game Time. With those zone deals, you pick the section. Game Time picks the seats. You get savings, and Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price, right? And if you don't, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. So anyway, take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LIGHTYEARS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LIGHTYEARS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. That might have been
all right, man.
That might have been one of our
good.
Best. Wow.
We'll get to some callers in a minute. I do want to talk Kuminga with you for a second. You were traveling this week, so we didn't get to catch up on it. These are Kuminga's stats in January. 20 points in under 30 minutes. He's basically turned into the paint king, like outside of Zion and Giannis, who are different animals. I mean, near 60% from the field, over 60% on twos. Finally putting that athleticism and strength to use and dunking all over the place. Yes, defense still needs some work, such as how LeBron exposed him at the end of the game there. Yeah. Also, that's LeBron James. But in theory, your hope is Kuminga one day becomes a guy good enough to guard the LeBrons of the world, which at least Wiggins at one point was and kind of is. So, and I think this is the other calculus that's going to come into the deadline. There's no way they're trading him. I think we knew that a week ago. I think it's just if you look at the way the Warriors are treating this, it's like he's a rising star. Unless it's a Giannis on the table, like they're going to hold on to him. I've already ruled him out of any possible trade.
Yeah.
When they weren't willing to discuss someone like Siakam for him, they're not going to discuss DeJounte Murray. And there's really no one else who's going to be moved at the deadline who I think they should even think about, to be honest, at this stage, like
he's the one guy. And I'm the bad guy with Jonathan Kuminga, but I do think he's the one guy on this team that they could use a little more of in crunch time. They don't have much, Sam, in crunch time. They really don't. I think Clay's just strictly a spot up guy. Every time he dribbles, it's disgusting. And Wiggins is so petrified out there. Draymond's obviously he's setting screens, right? You don't need him doing much else. I do think they could use a little more Kuminga. I do think they could use maybe not ISOing. I know they tried to do that with the Kings a little bit, and he kind of just lost the ball. Can you get him in a pick and roll? Can you get him on a secondary action where he's cutting to the rim, where he's coming off a screen, he's getting the ball, and he's driving? Can you get him a little more going where he's just not standing in the corner and then he's the release valve to shoot a three? Like that's not taking advantage of his skills on offense. They have so many issues in crunch time having rim penetration. It would be really nice if because I don't know how great he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be the superstar, but they could really use his skill set. And he can make free throws, right? He can actually make free throws versus Wiggins. My fucking God, some of those free throws that he shot last night, like not even close. Kuminga, at least, he's not scared out there. So I think that's where the potential for him to fit on this team. I think that's crucial because look, man, today's NBA, I don't know how much you can guard guys anymore, but if they had just scored, can they just get a dunk or an extra layup last night in the end of the fourth quarter? They win that game. And they just didn't score for 4 straight minutes, man. They did not score for 4 straight minutes, and that's where can you get Kuminga to get some of those looks versus here's Clay shooting another one-legged contested 3 from 30, right? Can we get Wiggins
And
throwing it to Draymond, throwing it to Steph, and then Steph's double covered by AD, right? Like, can we just, I think that's where it'd be.
I agree with you. I mean, the difference between him and Wiggins offensively is like he's by default more aggressive, and that can work
right
in his favor and against it, but more in his favor. Wiggins just is not wired that way. As well as he played, I still think he's petrified to shoot the ball in the fourth quarter. Wiggins had that one wide open catch and shoot that 2 years ago he'd take it. He immediately passed it to a more covered Clay because he didn't want the shot. And of course, Clay threw up a brick, but it is what it is. I do agree with you. They just need to get Kuminga going because like their biggest crunch time issue is it's 3 guys who don't want to shoot the ball around Steph and Clay. And that's why everything turns into hero ball threes, because what else are you going to get if, Draymond's just looking to reverse the ball to an open shooter at all times. Wiggins doesn't want to shoot the ball. And then Kuminga, you kind of have to set him up. I guess that's what you're really saying, which is he can't go, you can't throw it to him like you used to throw it to Kevin Durant, like shocker. Right. Yeah. So you got to find some way to get him going.
But I think too that the interesting part with Wiggins and Kuminga defensively is they're not that good. They're just not. I know Iguodala is great, and I bring Iguodala up all the time. Those two guys just aren't.
Iggy's a Hall of Famer.
But are they better than average defenders? Either of them, or are they just guys that look like they can defend and they're just kinda...
Wiggins is Wiggins is tricky because he has shown he can be a very good defender.
Not right now.
This season is not when he's shown it, but the bigger thing is Kuminga is more theoretical than anything. That I agree with. Like you look at him, he has a flash play against Tatum here and there, and you're like, oh damn, he turned the corner, but he hasn't actually turned the corner, right? Defensively, Wiggs at least put together a couple seasons of damn good defense.
Oh.
So. I don't know what you do with that because he's not been good for vast majority of this year defensively, but at least he's shown it. Whereas Kuminga, the first season he puts together a great defensive year will be the first season he does it.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring. I know we're talking about the good parts of this, but it's just those are your 2 wing guys, and they got to play better defense.
They do. You want to take a couple goon callers and call it a day?
Let's go.
Fox Hayes, first to request. By the way, if you guys want to call in, hit the hand at the middle. We are live on playback, per usual.
Goons.
Hey, what's up, boys?
Yo.
What's up, man? Can you turn up your mic a little bit?
Sir.
Yeah. 1 second. Can you hear me better?
A little louder, if possible.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, this works for sure. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. My bad. I had my headphones in. Hey, what's going on, guys? Real quick, like I said, I'm from the DMV, so these weekend games are a little bit easier to watch, but like these close games, I don't think I've ever in my recent memory remember the Warriors having this many like close games where they don't come out victorious. They're not really good overtime basketball team anyway, so when it went to overtime I was like, oh man, I think they're going to lose. With the refs, a couple of things that I think that was like messed up was the phantom call that happened, also that lane violation that they called on Draymond, where D'Lo got an extra foul shot, and then a couple like when Steph was boxing out to AD. I think that was a bad call as well. And then Kerr, who never challenges something, challenged a call that I think had no shot of being overturned. So he lost his challenges, and that would have been big. at the end of the game. You would think after all of these close games that the Warriors would have some type of poise or something, a game plan for a final shot or something to do, before to close these games out. Like a Tom Brady, whenever there's like a 2-minute warning and he was going down the field, you would know he would probably most likely get a touchdown or get his team into a field goal range, to close out games, and that's how he used to win most of all of his Super Bowls. So I don't know why with this team and this championship experience they don't have something like that they can go to. Overall, I thought the game was exciting, but you're a Warriors fan, so it's kind of like you're on pins and needles. A couple of guys, Kuminga was good. I think that maybe like Andy was saying, like maybe they should do something to where they can train Kuminga to do things like what Giannis does, where he has no dribble bag, but he can penetrate and use his athleticism. I know he's not as big as Giannis, but other people like Westbrook or John Morant, just do these line drives to the basket and they can get the whistle blown. I don't know why he can't do that. Wiggins was okay, I guess, subpar. Draymond Green was big. It's a shame that Wiggins and Klay Thompson fouled out. Klay was cold at first, but then he came back and he was big time. Pods, oh my gosh, that overtime shot that he shot, do you guys remember that? Where I think we were up 2 and they passed him the ball and it was like a minute left, and I think the first overtime or was the second, I forget. But he just pulls up with a 3-pointer when he could have like, I don't know, man. That was a killer. I thought, I don't know. But one more thing. I was thinking about Claxton or another center like Capella, since Looney looks like he's like cannot be played. I think he played 5 minutes where he should have just played 5 less minutes. The Looney, Dario Sarge lineup that Kerr threw out a couple of these games earlier with the starting lineup, he went away from that, but he went back to that kind of in the middle of the game. I think that's where the game got away from the Warriors. Other than those two centers that you guys mentioned before, what other options could they do? Could they bring anybody up from the G League or something like that? Like any production from the center position would be great. But yeah, I'll hop off, guys. Go Niners.
Hey, go Niners. Look at that.
Appreciate you, Fox. Take the questions with you off stage just because we're getting feedback on your mic.
Great recap of the game. He went through all the big moments from like the fourth quarter on. That was good memory.
At the risk of being the bad guy here, I didn't have a problem with the pod shot. I know you did. In rhythm, he's a shooter.
I get it.
No one guarding him.
Yeah.
Playing the result. It ribbing out and D'Lo.
Oh God.
Honestly, I'm just annoyed that D'Lo has to be the one who went nuclear on the Warriors. I feel like he's got nuclear on the Warriors like a bunch of times since they dumped him. I think it's personal with him because I don't think Steve Kerr ever gave him a shot, and maybe he shouldn't have. Maybe they should have just never gone that way. But when certain guys are like, oh, you don't like me, I'm gonna bring a little extra tonight.
Yeah. I know I didn't like the pod shot. I didn't like it in the moment. I didn't like it after. It's not a result thing for me, but it's one of those things. I think it's actually, you could argue it's why they lost, but I think the process was fine. Like you can get away with that process. I'm not too mad about that, but he talked about a lot of other things that were a lot more important, I think, to this team. I mean, yeah, you can kind of go through.
I mean, it's a fair question. So Claxton, it sounds like he's going to be traded. Good, young defensive center, can really switch, can rebound. And he's got the size, unlike Trace, who's 6'8", an actual like 6'11", 7-foot guy. Do they just need to go get a center? Is that really what it comes down to? Because I don't think they would close with a center, but a big part of their success in the 2015 season was like Bogut did give them, 25 minutes a game, and then they could close with the small ball lineup. Would everything be solved if they just had like a legitimate center?
Everything? A lot of things would be solved.
Because
a lot of things
point of attack matters less if you actually have someone who can protect the rim.
Yep. Yeah, like I think it solves a lot. I mean, you can argue with me. I don't know what the return would be. I feel like Claxton's a really good player. Like I don't. Sam, you know a lot more than I. What is going on there that he has to be moved, and what's the return?
Based on all the reports, one, his contract's expiring and he's unrestricted, and he apparently wants
okay.
He wants like 20.
Okay.
Right now he's making loony money. There's been some reports that the Nets are like, rather just get a pick because we're not a Claxton away from winning. Let's just cash out on him and let someone else get him. So that's the reason his name is coming up in these things. You never know how much of that's real versus the Nets seeing if they could find a sucker to give him a bunch of stuff randomly. But he is an exciting name because defensively, Claxton plus Draymond, very good.
I think it does solve a lot. I haven't really thought about it that much. I've been thinking of point of attack and offense so much, but I think that's a great option. The chat throws out, and this is why we love the playback chat. Wendell Carter Jr., who's been playing very well the past couple weeks because I think he knows he's going to be moved, so he's playing very well. He's a good interior finisher. Defensive, I don't know how good he is anymore, but he's always solid. But yeah, I think Claxton's an easy one where he might just solve your defense. He might not solve you being a championship contender, Sam, but he might just solve your defense entirely. Yeah, the contract stuff, whatever. I'll let someone else deal with that. But if you're talking about this team getting better right now, if you can start, because Kevon Looney, hey man, we love Kevon. He's cooked. Like, I don't even know if he should be playing anymore in some of these
games. Played 5 minutes last night, and they were minus 15 in those 5 minutes. You could argue
that's not even possible.
Fox is not wrong. Maybe they just win the game if Looney is DNP'd. Maybe it's that simple. Ugh. Or maybe they just win the game if the refs don't decide to call BS like lane violations and inadvertent whistles to get the Lakers back into it.
Inadvertent whistle was so absurd.
Yeah. I hate complaining about the refs, but honestly, if they just swallowed it down the stretch, do they just beat the Lakers and you and I are talking a different game today? Probably. So, yeah. Let's get to the next caller. That was the great stuff. All right, Will. Will, you've been called up.
Hey, what's up, Sam and Andy? How you guys doing?
Pretty good. How are you, my man?
Good, man. Two tough, one score back to back losses kind of sucks. But I think I agree with what Andy was saying about the needing a center might help solve a lot of these issues that we're having because, like you said, if we have some more help on the back line when when our first line of defense gets beat, an actual center who can really like contest shots at the rim would really help us because, like you said, Looney's cooked, and then Trace is a rookie and he's 6'8". I really think that any move we make at the trade deadline is going to be marginal at best because, in my opinion, maybe this is a little bit of copium. I don't think we are that
copium
far.
Graphic back up.
I don't think that we're that far off. Like, we're in so many of these games and it's coming down to one or two possessions of either defensively or offensively. And now, we're still not sure who our second consistent option is. Lately it's been Kuminga, and then Clay will get hot like he did last night in the second half. But I personally don't think that they move off of this Wiggins contract at the trade deadline. I mean, to me it doesn't really make a lot of sense when he's at an all-time low and he's been playing better these past 5 games. And I would like to see, to see how that plays out throughout the season. But yeah, I was wondering, what do you think is the more big glaring issue, the defense or the lack of a consistent second option?
I mean, it's a great question because I've gone in both directions all year. I still think defense, to be honest. I think they kind of need to solve both if they're ever going to get back into real contention. But I think solving the defense would move them firmly into the playoffs much quicker. Getting a better second option is going to make them more fun to watch for sure, but they're still going to be playing a lot of like close games down the stretch. So I think solving the defense is the first thing, and if you solve both of those, they might be back.
And what would you do in your scenario with the Nets, with Claxton? What do you think it would take to get him? Like Moody, maybe GP2 or another role player we have in a pick? Do you think that would get it done?
I think so just looking at it, you're throwing Moody in there because you're not giving up Kuminga for obvious reasons. So you're giving him a young player who hasn't worked out so far for the Warriors. Probably throwing Looney just to match the contracts would hurt the locker room a little bit because how much they like him, but like he's just not performing. And honestly, it has to be him or GP2. So if I'm getting a center back, I'd probably rather give up a center than a potential like point of attack defender. And then, probably have to throw in some form of a pick to kind of make it worth the Nets' while. Maybe it's less. I mean, he is expiring. That's the thing. Like maybe Moody's enough in a second. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I think it's probably Moody in a first to get him. And then you figure out in the offseason retaining him.
For sure. Well, let's see what happens, man. On February